Hello everyone, let's finish up question 14. Finally, the end of these marathon questions, at least for now. There are probably some long ones waiting for us later on, but for now we have done question 12, which was 13 articles, question 13, that was 12 articles, and now question 14, that is a grand total of 16 articles. Part 1, we took a look at Articles 1 through 6. Part 2, we did Articles 7 through 11. And today, we'll wrap up by doing Articles 12 through 16. We're going to be covering whether God can know infinite things, whether the knowledge of God is of future contingent things, whether God knows enunciable things, whether the knowledge of God is variable, and whether God has a speculative or some translations would render a theoretical knowledge of things. All right, let's not waste any time. Could God know infinite things? Well, Aristotle says the infinite is unknowable, and Augustine says that anything known is bound by the knower. Let's try that again. Right off the bat, we have a typo today. Not off to a good start. The infinite cannot be, by definition, have bounds, and is therefore unknowable, both according to what Aristotle and Augustine say. The infinite is untransversible, and cannot therefore be bounded even by the infinite. So it can't be, even if we say, well, it could be finite to God since he is infinite. No, because it's completely untransversible. The knowledge of God is the measure of what is known, but the infinite cannot be measured. But Augustine says God comprehends the infinite. I always like it when the argument from authority uses one of the same sources that our objections use. It's kind of like, take that. All right. God knows all possible things. There is an infinite number of possible things. And for that discussion, you can go back to question 7, where we talked about the infinity of God. Therefore, God knows infinite things, since he knows all possible things, right? Knowledge is based on the mode of the knower, since God's mode has sufficient likeness to all things that are or could be. He knows all things, including infinite things. All right? What about our objections? Well, God can see every part of an infinite thing. Since he sees, both my sense he sees, it's both my typing of objection 1 and my reply to objection 1 didn't go well there. Since he sees all things at once, that's according to Article 7, he sees infinite things as a whole. So what this is basically saying is that if you take an infinite thing and say, well, and you break it down into its parts, God sees every one of those parts. He sees every part of everything. But since he has simultaneous knowledge of everything, that's what Article 7 was about. You go back to Part 2 of Question 14. He sees all those parts of an infinite thing at once, and so he sees the infinite thing as a whole. The infinite thing is finite to God and that it is comprehended, not that it is transversible. I'm not doing well. See, when I type these out, I feel like I'm doing so well avoiding typos, and then we start recording them. Nope. God's knowledge measures the truth and essence of things, not their quantity. In this way, the infinite is measurable. So, you can't, like, if there's an infinite number of things or parts, you can't measure that infinite thing. Otherwise, it's unmeasurable in terms of quantity. But that's not the only type of measurement God's knowledge has. Okay, and those other types, truth and essence, the infinite can be measured by those. All right, whether the knowledge of God is of future contingent things. Now, to be clear what this is asking, it's not asking does God know the future, though that is kind of a periphery issue in here. What it's asking is of things that will happen in the future and are contingent, not absolute, but are contingent. Does God know those things? And really, another periphery issue, especially in the objections, is do such things even exist? Okay? So, let's open this guy up. God's knowledge is the cause of things, Article 8, and his knowledge is necessary. Therefore, he does not know contingent things. Why? Because as being the cause of things, that means that his knowledge is necessary and therefore all things that will be are necessary since God's knowledge isn't contingent. It's a little confusing, but essentially it's just saying that anything God knows can't be contingent. Okay? Everything God knows is necessary and could not be. So, continuing on with that theme, therefore his knowledge is of necessary things, not contingent things, kind of restating objection one in a slightly different way. And then just as everything we know is necessary, so everything God knows is necessary. Therefore, if there is a future thing that is contingent, it is unknown to God. And this, though I don't know that that system would have existed back then, this would be a very applicable article to discussions of open theism, which are prominent in theology today. Psalm 32:15 says that God knows the works of men which are subject to free will and are therefore contingent. Since God knows them, he knows contingent things. Right? So we have to affirm part of what's going on here. Also, then, lots of things involved in this question is essentially, is free will real? You know, that's an issue that we'll get into later on in the Summa and even in the treatise on the one God, but it's a side issue here. So our argument, since God knows all things, Article 9, it must follow he know even contingent things. Further, since God's time is measured by eternity, all things and all times are eternally present to him, including future contingent things. So it's almost incorrect then to say that God knows future things. We're essentially talking about God's knowledge in terms of the way we understand. So that needs to be clear with this question. God knows future things, but they're not future to him. They're all eternally present to him since he's judged by eternity or measured by eternity. That's the way he experiences time. But for us, things we would call future and future contingent, because we do have free will, would still be known to God since he's outside of time. All right, how about our objections answered? The first cause, God, is necessary, but his effects may be caused, now I have an extra word in there, by proximate contingent causes. That's a fancy way of saying that, yes, God is the ultimate cause of things, but in allowing humans to have free will, he allows there to be secondary causes of things, and those causes might be contingent. And so it's on account of those causes that things become contingent, not on account of the ultimate cause, which of course is necessary, non-contingent. When an act of the soul, that's Aquinas' wording, and I wasn't quite sure if he meant free will. It seemed like it to me, but I didn't want to impose that paraphrase where I wasn't quite sure. So when an act of the soul, or free will, we'll go with that for now, is involved in causes something, causing something, contingency. See if we can get through a single one of these with it. I should start proofreading. I probably won't because it takes a long time to do all these questions as it is, but I really should. I apologize. In causing something, contingency is involved even though the thing is eternally known and present to God. So again, kind of saying that, what God knows is necessary. So from God's perspective, it is necessary because it's eternally present to him. It's not in the future. But that doesn't mean that from our perspective, the way we experience time, it's contingent. Because we experience events chronologically in succession. God doesn't. And so since something that is future contingent is present to him, it becomes necessary to him. In the same way, everything you know in the present is necessary, right? Nothing that's happening right this second is contingent. Things that happen 5 seconds from now, 1 second from now, 1 millisecond from now are all potentially contingent, but things in the now are not contingent. And so for God, and we affirm that that's true, that is true, but for God that doesn't apply because they're eternally present to him, and that's how we get around the issue of present and of God's knowledge being necessary. Part of the reason it's necessary is that all present knowledge is necessary, and all of God's knowledge is eternally present to him. I know it's confusing. Again, big ideas, key terms, right? And then reply to 3, things known to God are necessary according to his mode of knowledge, kind of what we were just talking about, but are not necessarily necessary absolutely when considering their cause. That's another good way of thinking about it, that they're necessary to God, but not absolutely necessary. When God created creatures with free will, those things that are eternally present to him in what we call the future could have been otherwise based on free will. But to God, they are as they are. They are unchangeable because all times are present to him. Very confusing, but hopefully you get the big idea. Okay, enunciable things. I was like halfway through this article before I understood what this meant. Essentially, it just means, does God know your thoughts? Okay? Objection 1. Our intellect knows enunciable things, our thoughts, by composing and dividing. There is no composition or division in the divine intellect. Therefore, God does not know enunciable things. Since God is entirely simple, there can be no likeness between him and enunciable things. Therefore, he does not know enunciable things. So, again, enunciable things kind of your thoughts, a proposition where you say, if this, then that, it's just a thought, I guess. And all thoughts have complexity to them, is kind of what this is saying. So it seems to contradict God's simplicity if we say God knows those types of things. But Psalm 93:11 says that God knows the thoughts of man. Enunciable things are contained in our thoughts. The argument. Since God knows whatever is in our power to know, and we know enunciable things, he must know enunciable things. But then, important clarification, nevertheless, God knows enunciable things in a wholly simple way, since his knowledge is non-decursive and he knows all at once. So for us, when we have these complex thoughts, what Aquinas is calling enunciable thoughts, where we build one idea upon another to form a whole thought, for us, there's complexity involved in that, but God knows all sides of that simultaneously, and there's never a time where he doesn't know one part of that. And so because God sees all things at once, what we call enunciable thoughts to us, God knows, but they're not truly enunciable in him because he's wholly simple, or rather his mode of knowing them isn't an enunciable way of knowing. And I think we'll get into that in the objections here. So that would be, right here. That would be true if God knew enunciable things like we do. He doesn't. He knows them all simultaneously, all at once. All right, and then enunciation signifies the existence of a thing. Since God is pure being, even of a thought, there's likeness between him and enunciable things at the level of being. And so he can know them through that similitude. All right, is the knowledge of God variable? Let's find out. Creatures vary throughout time, therefore God's knowledge of them must vary. God can know whatever he can make. He can make more than he knows. Therefore, his knowledge can vary as the things he makes increases or decreases. And so essentially, God knows whatever he's made. He can make more, so therefore, as he makes more, he knows more. And if you've been paying attention to these articles, the refutation of that one should be pretty obvious. At one time, God knew Christ would be born. He doesn't know this any longer, since Christ won't be born in the future. Therefore, his knowledge can vary. All right? James 1:17 says there is no alteration in God. Lots of verses that you could cite there. God's knowledge is his substance. That's according to Article 4, and his substance is immutable. Question 9, therefore his knowledge is immutable. Very straightforward. Well, what about those pesky objections? Well, the knowledge of creatures is in God in an eternal way, even as they change, his knowledge of them does not. Same thing as how all moments in time are eternally present to God. All variations throughout the life of a creature are eternally present to God. Okay? So there really is no change. It's just God sees all the variations of a creature throughout their entire existence in his eternal presentness. And so as you change, he doesn't change. None of his knowledge changes. All right. God knows not only what he makes, but what he does not make. Remember, we've talked about that before, that God knows all things that could be or not be. That was in one of the previous two videos. Therefore, his knowledge is not various things are made. And then, reply to 3, it is part of God's knowledge to know that an enunciable proposition, such as Christ will be born, is sometimes true and sometimes false. So, knowledge can have, that level of complexity in it that says, well, Christ will be born before he is born. After he has been born, he will no longer be born. And that'd be the same of any creature that God knows will be born, right? God's knowledge isn't so completely basic where it's like, oh, Christ will be born. Boop! Flip the switch. He's no longer going to be born. He's already been born. That's just not how it works. All right, finally, Article 16. Whether God has a speculative or theoretical knowledge of things. God's knowledge is the cause of things, but speculative knowledge does not cause things. Speculative knowledge involves abstraction from things which does not belong to the divine knowledge. But, our argument from authority, Aristotle says that speculative knowledge is more excellent than practical knowledge, and it belongs to God to have the most excellent of all things. There are 3 kinds of speculative knowledge. When the knower speculates about things above him, such as when we men speculate about every one of these. We're going to get a typo in here. When man speculates about the divine, considering what a thing is, as when a builder considers the parts of a house but does not actually build it. Just speculating, having a theoretical knowledge about what something is. And considering the end of a thing without ordering it to operation is when a builder considers what a house would be like if built but does not build it. God has only speculative knowledge of himself, since he is not operable. There can be no practical knowledge of God. This is where I got a little stuck, but I just kind of rolled with it. Of all other things, he has a practical and a speculative knowledge. God's practical knowledge is the cause of things, but he can also have speculative knowledge of things. And since God's knowledge is perfect, it must contain a speculative and a practical knowledge of all things. Like I said, this one I was a little confused on. I just kind of went with it, Because, hey, it's Article 16 at the end of an ultra-long question, and so, we deserve to skate a little bit through that one. All right, we made it. That's question 14. Believe it or not, question 15 here, the divine ideas. 3 articles. That's it. Just 3 articles. So we need a little bit of a breather after these long marathon questions. And I, for one, am happy about that. These are fun, but man, when you're trying to do 5, 6 articles at a shot, it does get a little bit overwhelming at times. So I'm looking forward to slowing down the amount of articles per video just a little bit. That'll be fun. And hopefully maybe we can wish for a little bit more simplicity on top of there. Probably not, but I think we're doing okay. Anyway, that's it for now, everyone. I'm Bendy Bono, and I will see you next time for the 3 article question 15.